Thank you, moderator. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself. My name is Eli Erawati. I am a lecturer at the Law Faculty of Private University in West Java in Bandung. It's not so big city, but it's a nice city, just 3 hours by car from Jakarta. But let me say something before I deliver my speech. First of all, I would like to thank you to the Deputy Director of Department of Trade and Negotiations, who is very kindly inviting me to come to Bangkok this time, and for hosting me in this very privileged forum. And yeah, I have to thank to my friend also, Mr. Sudha Santrakun, who is a very best friend of mine since 1994 when we were studied together in Italy. To be honest, I'm not a practicing lawyer, so perhaps what I want to deliver to you all is more a theoretical aspect of doing business in Indonesia, especially in terms of foreign investment. I am not talking about the practicing aspect. It will be left to my friends from Indonesian law firm, very famous law firm, Mr. Richard Yapsunto, who will be giving his speech in the afternoon session. But for this session, I will try at my best to deliver my knowledge on the legal aspects of foreign investment in Indonesia. I have written a paper consisting of 14 pages and an appendix which tell all to you about the business field which are closed and which are open to foreign investor. But in order to help me presenting my speech, I will give you some slides, but it's nothing new in this slide. This slide is a short version of my paper. So even though you are not given the slides as seminar kits, it's no problem. I think you can read my paper if you have enough time to do it. Thank you. Okay. As I said before, I would like to stress my speech this morning on investment law aspect of Indonesia. But before talking in detail about investment law aspect, which one is the new one, issued in the year of 2007, let me give you a very short introduction about the Indonesian political system or Indonesian government system, even though I know that most of you perhaps already familiar with that. This is just outline of my presentation, a short introductory of Indonesian government, and then the second part is about the setting up business activities in Indonesia, which is setting up a representative office, agent or distributor, as an alternative to foreign direct investment, and then the third part, which is the most important part of my speech, is about the Indonesian legal regime on FDI. Okay. Yeah. The main legislation, the most and the foremost regulation in our country is the Constitution of State of 1945. And according this Constitution, the government power of Indonesia divide into executive power, legislative power, and judiciary powers. And about the legislative power, we can tell about the legislative bodies, which is consisting of, first, People Consultative Assembly, or MPR. This is the highest body in Indonesia. They meet only once in 5 years to establish or perhaps to renew the constitution, if there is a possibility to change the constitution, and they elect the president and the vice president. And the second part is a DPR, or parliament, a House of People Representative. The parliament is a legislative body which has authority to issue a new law and what we call it, some basic policy, yeah, in economic or in legal system in Indonesia. And then there is a DPD, Regional House of Representative, who held a less powerful power, yeah. And the fourth one is a DPRD. This is a parliament in the level of province. Indonesia has 33 provinces across the archipelago, yeah. And the last one is we have a regency or municipal regional house of people. This parliament is located in every major city or in every regency, which in Indonesia we call it kabupaten and kota. Yeah. And then let me move to executive power. As I said before, the president and vice president will be elected by the MPR for holding a post 5 years in terms and may be re-elected again only for 1 term. And you may know that the current president, Bambang Susilo Yudhoyono, has already hold his position in 2 terms, so he cannot be re-elected again next year. And next year will be another general election in Indonesia, so please have a look carefully what will happen. We as Indonesian, of course, we do hope that nothing bad happen. We had a good experiences, I think 4 or 5 experiences in general election, either general election in parliament and also general election in terms of presidential power, and all happens in very quite peaceful way. So hopefully, even though next year we will be having a new president, there will no great or dramatic changes in political or economic aspect of Indonesia, especially on foreign investment regulations. And we have a lot of ministers. Total ministers is 31, and plus 3 coordinating minister, and some department or some minister we do have a vice minister, and we also have a state secretariat and cabinet secretariat, which will be helping president and vice president in exercising their powers. And of course, this is more complicated. We do have 22 non-governmental government agencies. Among other things, is a Capital Investment Coordinating Board, or in Indonesia we call it PKPM. This is the most important agency that you maybe will deal with when you decide to come to Indonesia and doing business in form of foreign direct investment. We call it a PKPM. And also we do have a Drug and Food Supervisory Body, or BPOM. It's also important thing and quite familiar probably, because a lot of product come from Thai in terms of food, beverage. They all must be passed by BPOM. It is a quite powerful body. And this one is the level of government. It is quite important, I think, for you to get familiar with. Yeah, Indonesia is a very big and very emerging democratic countries. Even though a majority of us are Muslim, but thankfully there is no a big riot in my country. Yes, indeed, some or several action conducted by terrorism or by radical people occurred last couple of years, but the military or under the presidency now can take over the whole things. So hopefully there will be nothing bad happen in the future. As a democratic country, we have a central government held by the president and vice president. And then, as I said before, we do have 33 provinces headed by governors, which divided into regencies, kabupaten, and municipalities or kota. Like my place where I live, Bandung, it is a municipal, it's a big city. But Jakarta is also a big city, but Jakarta will be treated as a different provinces with a special status. I will going in detail a bit later. And then we do have regencies headed by region or bupati and divided into district, kecamatan, and villages. And the municipalities headed by mayors or wali kota and divided into district and villages too. And then the district headed by district heads and divided into sub-district or kelurahan. So to sum up, the smallest level of government in Indonesia is sub-district, kelurahan. This is the very basic level of government in our country. Whenever we live, whether you are foreigner or indigenous people, you have to know about the sub-district location and its chairman in order to helping you in doing business or in everyday life. Because government always asks you to give a permission from the sub-district kelurahan in order to get business license and even to get his permission for conducting contract or something like that. Yeah? And then there are 33 provinces throughout Indonesian archipelago, yeah, including 4 special provincials, which possess special status and are granted special autonomy. There are Jakarta capital city, yeah, Aceh, the very northern part of Indonesia, very close to Thai geographical, and Aceh is a special province which allowed by the government to apply the Muslim law, Sharia law. So sometimes it's weird to see Aceh people because they are not allowed to do blah 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 according to the Sharia law. Compared to other Indonesian people, we are more freer than there because we can deal freely with the foreigners. We can having a good relationship with men or with women, even though we are not having a what do you call it, a husband and wife relationship, but we are allowed to deal with them. But Aceh people, they are not allowed to do that. So personally, I just remind you that if you want to make an investment in Aceh province, just be careful about this. Be aware that the Muslim law, Sharia law applies in this province. And yes, another province, West Java, some districts in West Java are trying now to apply the Sharia law, especially in Cianjur, close to Bandung, yeah, and Garut. But up to now, they won't be success. But I think they are still trying to try a special status on to apply the Sharia law. And then the Papua province. This is the eastern part of Indonesia, very close to Papua New Guinea and Australia. It's very rich in natural resources, but unfortunately, Papua province is very little be given by the government. Papua people are very unlucky because the government has only give a little attention to them. So very lack infrastructure. Yeah, there is no regular flights to go there. Yeah, so even though maybe foreign investors are attracted to come to Papua province, but to be honest, perhaps it's quite difficult to do business over there compared to other provinces in Indonesia. Yeah, and then the last one is Yogyakarta. It is a very special province because it allows to be having a royal family. But the royal family in Indonesia doesn't hold any political power at all. It's just a family for attracting the tourism or something like that. Yeah, and 33 provinces, as I said mentioned, are located in 10 provinces are in Sumatra, in the western part of Indonesia, the island which is very close to Thai, and 6 in Java, 4 in Kalimantan, 6 in Sulawesi, 1 in Bali, 2 in Maluku, 2 in Nusa Tenggara, and 2 in Papua. And if you ask me which province which is very promising to be to be engaged in a business, my answer is absolutely Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Maluku, Nusa Tenggara, and Papua, as I said before. Yeah, but again, Papua, even though it's very promising, but it's lack of infrastructure, and their indigenous people is also a lack of some kind of education. So perhaps that is the barrier for investing there. Okay. And now about the judiciary. The judicial authority in Indonesia is free from any intervention from either the executive or legislative body for administering judiciary power, yeah, for the purpose of upholding law and justice. So don't worry if you may have a legal case and should be resolved according to the national court. Don't worry about intervention from the government. It doesn't happen any longer. 20 years ago, when we are living under the Suharto regime, and the intervention from the government to the judiciary system occurs quite often. But now, thankfully, it doesn't happen any longer. And then I will talk about the hierarchy of civil and criminal courts in Indonesia as follows. Yeah. We do have some district courts or pengadilan negeri. District courts are civil and criminal courts of first instance. So in case you have to bring a case before the court, you have to go first at a district court, either for civil or criminal cases. And then we do have a high court or pengadilan tinggi, which also conducting civil and criminal cases, but on first appeal. And the high court is located in the capital city of each province. So we do have 33 high courts. And the last one, the most important thing is, of course, we do have a Supreme Court, or Mahkamah Agung. It's a court of second appeal level, which can nullify decision or stipulation of court from all judicial sector based on lack of jurisdiction or erroneous application or transgression of law or negligent fulfillment of conditions which are required by the regulation of law. So to sum up, we do have a district court at the first instance, and then the appeal court, and then the Supreme Court. In most cases, Supreme Court do not have a power to settling. Why? Because in some matter, the power to settling is held by the Mahkamah Konstitusi or Constitutional Court. But very often cases in constitutional court are not related to business activities. So I'm sure that foreign investor will never go to constitutional court for bringing their cases. I think it won't be happen quite often. Yeah. And we do have another or other court, namely, as I mentioned before, constitutional court, state administrative court, military court, and etc. Quite many, and sometimes it's quite confusing, especially to foreigners. Yeah, but I can assure you, you don't have to be related to this court. Yeah, just it's better to avoid conflict or legal cases than bring cases before the court. Yeah, even though for Indonesian people, I will talk it later on in the last part of my speech. Okay, and then let me give you a very short insight about the Indonesian legal system. As you may know, Indonesia has been colonized by Dutch government for about 350 years. And if we talk about the history, this is the part which we can say the Thai people and Indonesian people is very different. As far as I know, the Thai people never been colonized by any foreigners, I think. But Indonesia, we do have been colonized by Dutch, by English, and by Japan. And now perhaps we colonized by China, because too many products are coming from China. Yeah? Everything, from textile to food, yeah, to aeroplane, are product of China. And that is one that I noticed since we have a political reform in 1997. Since then, so many products are coming from China. Yeah? And recently, past 10 years, the changing occurs. Now, we very often see products coming from Korea. Yeah, you already know that Korea is very expensive, expanding, not expensive, it's very expanding countries. And their businessmen come to every country, including Thai probably, and of course in Indonesia. And last month in Jakarta, it just opened up the new supermarket, the biggest one, Lotte Mart, yeah, owned by the Korean company. Yeah, when I asked and when I do a research, I found the answer. They got the permission several years ago, but then almost 10 or 15 years, they now built the supermarket and open up just last month. Why I do research on that topic? Because I wonder why the Korean company get a permission to open up the big supermarket. Because as well as I know, the negative list, which I can refer it to you, the negative list said that supermarket is closed to foreign investor. Then the answer is like that. They got the license several years ago. Yeah, we can wondering why, but yeah, it's happened. The same things also happened in 1992, I think, when the first Japanese supermarket come to Indonesia. That is Sogo supermarket. Yeah, at that times under the President Suharto, nobody dare to ask why the Japanese company got the permission, even though we know that the investment law doesn't allow foreign company to conduct a retail business in Indonesia. The answer is everybody know that the Suharto is very powerful at that time, so everything can happen under his regime. Okay, let me back to this legal system. At the present time, Indonesian legal system is very, heterogeneous. It's not homogeneous, yeah? Because we do have 4 different legal systems taking place all together in Indonesia. The first one is indigenous customary or adat law. The second one is reminiscent of Dutch law. And the second one is Islamic law. And the last one is national legislation. Yeah. Adat law or indigenous customary law is an unwritten customary law applicable mainly for family law matters and property rights. Yeah. Its applicability, however, has been increasingly reduced due to the modernization and economic development, which lead the way for Western law, i.e., Dutch law and national legislation. So, to sum up, foreign investor will do nothing with Adat law. There is no relation between foreigners and Adat law at all, because Adat law is, the applicability of Adat law is very limited, only apply to indigenous people and only apply in the family matters and property rights. For business matter like signing or making contract, the Adat law do not applicable. Okay? The Dutch law, even though it has been issued 200 years ago, is still existing in Indonesia. Perhaps Mr. Richard Japsunto can talk it later on in the afternoon session. We do have a civil code, it's very important, commercial code, and criminal code. And these three basic codes are still applicable in Indonesia. And every Indonesian subjects are, are required, yeah, to obey these three basic codes: civil code, commercial code, and criminal code. And as far as I know, if I'm not mistaken, the civil code of Indonesia, which is based on the Dutch code, is quite similar to Thai civil code, because the Thai civil code is also has been influenced by the European legal system. So basically, in the civil code or commercial code between Indonesia and Thai do not have any difference, a big difference, yeah, compared to Singapore, for example, because Singapore is a country which influenced very much by the common law legal system. So the Singaporean legal system do not have a civil code, do not have a commercial code. They have cases, they have a decision by the court, but they don't have codes. And then, as I said before, we do recognize Islamic or Sharia law. And in 1980 something, yeah, we do have a special court for them. We call it Pengadilan Agama or religious court, which will be responsible in conducting a Sharia law. And up to present times, we do have a Sharia law in insurance. We do have Sharia law in contract. Yeah, we do have a Sharia law in any other commercial activities. But again, it's only open for Muslim people. If we are not a Muslim people, we are not compulsory to follow that kind of rules. And the last but not the least is national legislation. There are all laws and regulations issued by the government of Indonesia since 1945, since our independence. And thankfully, now we do have a lot of national legislation which can be said as a substitute of the Dutch laws. So, beside of the three basic codes, as I said before, civil code, commercial code, and criminal code, there are other regulations issued by the Dutch government, but now it's no longer applicable because the government Indonesia has issued the new ones. Okay, and this one is sometimes it's very tricky. The order of national legislation. For foreigners, sometimes they get confused which regulation is stronger than the other. The answer is this. The first one is Constitution. No law or no regulation can supersede a Constitution of 1945. So in case there is a regulation or law which contain a provision which are inconsistent to constitution, which are